Thank you, Tharun, for such a great opening, and thank you, JP and the team, for putting this gathering together, and more importantly, thank you to all of you guys for coming on a Thursday morning. As Tharun had mentioned, this is our inaugural event in London. That being said, I think we've been very, very fortunate to work actually with most of you in this room. Thanks to Allison, who sits in the center table, who's really spent many, many years really building a movement here in the UK of focus on partnerships, enabling Dasra to work with you guys to understand what your needs are in the UK and what you would like to do in India. And then more importantly, as Tharun mentioned, sort of leveraging the 80-member team we have in Mumbai now to help not just give you guys sound investment advice, which is critical, but then really take that to build and forge partnerships. As Tharun mentioned, one of our goals since 2009, after about 10 years of existence, and when Tharun joined the board, was really to encourage Indians to start giving, to unlock their capital that they have made post-liberalization, to focus on their own backyard. While most Indians have given to religious institutions, similar to the US, for example, and I'm sure even in the UK, strategic philanthropy was a new term for them. There was a huge trust deficit that emerged where they didn't know about, for example, the laws that mandated organizations to even audit their statements, much less have information on what's happening in the sector, what government is doing, what NGOs are doing, and really where philanthropic capital can play a role. And that really stood to us as a challenge to really start, like we did in banking years ago, with evidence. And so our model is really based on creating research reports, spending 9 to 12 months on a particular issue, identifying not just the issues that exist in that particular issue, but more importantly, the solutions that are currently being driven by successful management teams. And so it's very easy, again, when you look at the development sector to say, oh, in theory, this A, B, and C should happen. As we know from the business world, if you don't have entrepreneurs actually implementing A, B, and C, as a philanthropist, unfortunately, all you are is an investor. And therefore, if you don't have a strong entrepreneur on the ground to actually take up the challenge and work day in and day out, like some of the entrepreneurs who are going to be speaking today, chances are your ambitions and your goals of funding will sort of not actually create the impact that's required. And so in India, we're very, very fortunate to have a rich number of organizations and civil society NGOs that have really come from ground up. Many of them have come from the same communities that they're serving, but they themselves lack the voice to have conversations at a level in Mumbai, Delhi, or even in London for that matter. And that's really where Dasra comes in. We go in, we identify, for example, in domestic violence, we'll research close to 300 NGOs across the country that's doing work, and we try to bring their voice out in our research to help policymakers, foundations, and philanthropists really understand the gaps that emerged in the ground and where philanthropic capital can play a role. We then work with these organizations in the longer term, helping build their own capacities to have 3 to 5 year strategic plans. Again, something that most funders have never enabled them to do. Most funders are looking for ready-made solutions that they invest in, and then when things go wrong, the funder blames the nonprofit and why sort of they didn't actually have a well-thought-out plan. From a Dasra approach, we realize these social organizations are doing, in all honesty, God's work on the ground, and therefore it's our responsibility to bring those outside perspectives, knowledge, and resources, enabling to have the organization to create stronger plans with, of course, the measurement tools in place, enabling them, as well as their beneficiaries, to know that impact is created on the ground. And so while this is our first event in the UK, we've been fortunate to be recognized by groups like NPC, who've nominated the Dasra Giving Circles last year as one of the top 10 global innovations. We've worked quite closely with many of the groups here. And really, through that effort, it's helped us to not just understand, again, what philanthropists are thinking, but more importantly, how to forge partnerships and multi-stakeholder collaborations. One of the good things, I guess, about starting Dasra at the age of 24 with my second-year bonus at Morgan Stanley is we never had money. And when you don't have money, you actually have to think in an efficient and effective manner. You have to realize that the value that you're creating is not just what one can do individually, but more importantly, what you can do as a collaborative or a platform. And that's really the theory and the ethos of Dasra from day one, is how do you use this knowledge and the on-the-ground presence in India to really build coalitions that can fight some of the most wicked problems that exist in the country today. So in 2012, we were commissioned by the Kiowa Trust, a UK-based family foundation, to start looking at the empowerment of adolescent girls. And so in that effort, when we started doing the research and spending time on the ground, we started realizing that in the sort of 12 years of existence, most of the organizations that we supported, the greatest impact that they were creating was actually that of the plight of the adolescent girl and really enabling them to take a step forward. And so when we did this report, and it was an investment of close to $50,000 that the Kiowa Trust had made, we started understanding the issues from in and out and realized that there was a need to actually do much more than just one report on the empowerment of adolescent girls. This led us to actually create an alliance, which we call the Dasra Girl Alliance, and which has really enabled other partners, anywhere from a USAID to come in and participate in the research as well as the capacity building support that we provide organizations. The Piramal Foundation is a large family foundation based in India, attached to a pharmaceutical company. They've come in to sort of use their business expertise in the medical arena to help the empowerment of adolescent girls and look at the medical side of things. We've also partnered up with the likes of Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, for example, to come in and really put their money and their mouth where it's needed the most, which is looking at the links between sanitation and the effect that has on girls in the country. And so that $50,000 investment that the Kiowa Trust had made about 4 years ago, or 3 years ago, I guess, has turned into close to $25 million worth of new capital, 80% of that which has been unlocked from India. And I think this is a critical thing to realize. From Dasra's perspective, while we worked in New York, we decided very quickly and early on to start up the organization, not in New York City, but in Mumbai, on the ground, in the field, because we realized, just like we learned in banking and in private equity, being close to your investments was critical. We realized being there day in and day out with these entrepreneurs, since they're the real ones making the change, was important not only to the success of these organizations, but more importantly, the impact that they were able to create on the ground. And so it did take us close to 12 years to actually start looking outside of India and figuring out how the knowledge and the partnerships that we're creating in country can actually be leveraged by individuals like yourself sitting over here. And so whether it's conversations on a anti-sex trafficking line with Childline India or others, the goal of Dasra is really to ensure that each and every one of you guys sitting here in this room, as well as philanthropists in Mumbai, New York, San Francisco, et cetera, understand that there's some phenomenal work happening on the ground, and in order to create real impact, you should partner with those organizations. Partnership in itself, though, is difficult. It's not easy. It's not a single-shot solution. And therefore, what we do as an organization is not just make the introductions, but more importantly, handhold various parties to come together. And in this case, with Empowering Adolescent Girls, really bring, till date, $25 million to the sector. Our approach has been very much research-led, capacity building on the ground, and then taking this knowledge and open sourcing it. So all of the research reports that we have on the back of the table are available online for anyone to sort of look at. And really our goal is to help you identify other people interested in the movement or the causes that you care about and really forge those synergies. And so it's a real honor for us to be here today. To give you a few facts and figures of adolescent girls, because that may be a question of why we're focusing on that. In India today, we have 120 million adolescent girls. And so I'm not sure what the population of this country is, but I'm sure it's fairly close. These girls are the most marginalized communities, not only in India, but possibly one of the most marginalized communities in the world. 40% of our girls are married before the age of 18. Some of our colleagues from the NGO sector doing the work on the ground will talk about these statistics. But you have a 5 times greater chance of a girl giving birth before the age of 14 to die and her child to die versus that post the age of 20. Girls drop out of school, commonly in 5th, 6th, and 7th standard, making it easy for them to go into child marriage, making sure that, unfortunately, their rights and their children's rights are then not looked after. 600 million people in our country, again, 600 million people in our country don't have access to toilets. Again, who's this affecting the most? The girls. Men can openly defecate during the day and have no issues with that. Women, on the other hand, and we've seen this in many of the slums that we work in, tie actually materials around their waist post 3 in the morning because that's the only way they can not go to the bathroom until it's dark again. In certain villages across India and slums, for example, in New Delhi, close to 70% of women and girls talk about sexual harassment when they're trying to defecate because there are no toilets, therefore they have to go to dark, secluded areas, and unfortunately it's not only unsafe, but clearly this is an issue that affects them over life in terms of health, etc. And so really the goal for Dasra and the Adolescent Girl Alliance that we've been helping forge with Kiowa Trust, USAID, and others is to bring their plight not only up to sort of an area that people understand, but more importantly with solutions that you can invest in. And so hopefully in the next couple of hours, we'll demonstrate some of those solutions to you, and we can hopefully host you guys in India next time you're there to really help you see what's happening on the ground and enable you guys to make your difference. Thank you so much.